Welcome you all again. Today we will be discussing regarding execution of decrees. Execution of decrees. In this class, I will be giving you a general introduction with regard to how an execution of decree takes place and what are the powers of the executing courts. So, the term execution with regard to decrees means giving effect to the judgment and decree or an order of the court. It's the enforcement, we can say it's the enforcement of decrees and orders by the interference of court. So once a decree is passed, the judgment debtor may either suo motu satisfy the decree holder with regard to the terms of the decree. And if he does not satisfy the decree holder with regard to the contents of the decree, the decree holder is having the remedy to file an execution petition or an execution application before the court which passed the decree. So when it comes to execution, there will be a change in the names of the parties. In the original side, we have seen the parties are called as the plaintiff and the defendant. But when it comes to the execution part, the status of the parties changes from that of plaintiff and defendant to that of decree holder and judgment debtor. So a party or a person in whose favor a decree has been passed, he is called the decree holder. And against whom a decree has been passed, he is the judgment debtor. So in the initial classes itself, I have told you that it is not always necessary that the plaintiff himself must be the decree holder in every case. So sometimes when the suit has been dismissed, the court may order cost to the defendant. And in such case, if the cost remains unpaid by the plaintiff, the decree holder can get the decree or the cost enforced by cost enforced as a decree debt, and there in such cases the defendant may become the decree holder and the plaintiff may become the judgment debtor. So sections 36 to 74 and also order 21 of the Code of Civil Procedure deals with the principles and procedure regarding execution. Then, with regard to the jurisdiction of the court to execute a decree, the question may arise as to which court can execute a decree. So, Section 38 of the Code provides that a decree may be executed either by the court which passed the decree or by the court to which the decree has been transferred. So either the court which passed the decree may execute the decree, or a court to which the decree has been transferred is also competent or having jurisdiction to enforce or execute a decree. So what is a court which passed the decree? Section 37 of the code provides which all courts can be considered as a court which passed the decree. So according to section 37, the court which passed the decree will include, firstly, the court which actually passed the decree. The court which actually passed the decree is a court passing a decree, as we all are aware. And assume for a moment an appeal has been filed and an appellate decree has been passed. An appeal has been filed against the decree of the court of the first instance, and if an appellate decree has been passed, section 37 provides that in case of an appellate decree also, the court of the first instance, that is the court where the suit has been instituted, and the court where the decree has been passed at first. That court is the court which passed the decree. It's not the appellate court, but it's the court of the first instance which passed the decree, is the court which passed the decree according to section 37 for the purpose of execution of a decree. Then assume for a moment the court which passed the decree, or the court of the first instance, has ceased to exist. That is by virtue of some amendment to the law. That court has been changed and a new court has been provided with the jurisdiction. So now at the time when the party is approaching the court for execution of the decree, the court which passed the decree is not in existence. So section 37 there also provides that. In such case, the court which passed the decree, or the court of the first instance, will be that court which would have jurisdiction to try the suit at the time of execution. Execution ഫയൽ ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് അത് ഒരു സ്യൂട്ടായി വന്നിരുന്നുവെങ്കിൽ, ആ ഡിഗ്രിക്ക് കാരണമായിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യസംഗതികൾ ഒരു സ്യൂട്ടായിട്ട് വരികയാണ് എങ്കിൽ ഏത് കോടതിയിലാണോ ആ സ്യൂട്ട് ഫയൽ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്, ആ കോടതിയാണ് ദ കോർട്ട് വിച്ച് പാസ് ദ ഡിഗ്രി. ആൻഡ് ലാസ്റ്റ്ലി, സംടൈംസ് ദ ടെറിട്ടോറിയൽ ജൂറിസ്ഡിക്ഷൻ ഓഫ് ദ കോർട്ട് മൈറ്റ് ചേഞ്ച്. പുതിയ കോടതികളൊക്കെ വരുമ്പോൾ ദ ടെറിട്ടോറിയൽ ജൂറിസ്ഡിക്ഷൻ മൈറ്റ് ചേഞ്ച്. So in such circumstances, if the territorial jurisdiction of the court has changed, both the courts, that is the court which originally passed the decree and the court which is having the territorial jurisdiction at the time of execution of the decree, both the courts will be having the jurisdiction to execute the decree. Then I have told you that a decree can be executed either by the court which passed the decree or by a court to which the decree has been transferred. So there is a concept of transfer of decree for execution. Sections 39 to 42 and rules 3 to 9 of the code provides with how a decree is to be transferred. So the court which passed the decree can transfer the decree to another court. This transfer can be effected either suo motu by the court or upon an application made by the party, the decree holder. And a decree can be transferred to another court on 4 grounds. A decree can be transferred to another court on 4 grounds. Firstly is a case where the judgment debtor is actually and voluntarily residing, or if the judgment debtor is carrying on a business outside the jurisdiction of the court which passed the decree, but within the limits of another court. In such case, the court which passed the decree can transfer the decree to the court where the defendant actually and voluntarily resides or carries on his business. സ്യൂട്ടിൽ നമ്മൾ ഫയൽ ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് the crucial fact is that of, or the crucial fact which decides the jurisdiction of a court is the court having jurisdiction where the cause of action has arose or where the property is situated. If a property is in dispute, the property is situated. But when it comes to execution, the status change. For example, a decree has been passed in a suit for money, but the cause of action might have arose within the jurisdiction of the Municip Court Ernakulam. Assume for a moment the transactions or the agreement between the plaintiff and the defendant took place within the jurisdiction of Municip Court Ernakulam. But the defendant is not residing at Ernakulam. Defendant is not having property in Ernakulam within the jurisdiction of the Municipal Court Ernakulam. But he may be having certain properties within the jurisdiction of the Municipal Court Kottayam. So in such case, and the defendant may be residing at within the jurisdiction of Municipal Court Kottayam. In such circumstances, the court in Ernakulam, the Municipal Court Ernakulam, cannot execute that decree because the defendant is not voluntarily residing within the jurisdiction of the Municipal Court Ernakulam. He is not carrying on any business here. He may not be having any property also situated within the jurisdiction of Municipal Court Ernakulam. So in such circumstances, the crucial factor which decides the jurisdiction for executing the decree is the place where the judgment debtor resides or carries on business, or where the judgment debtor is having property. So, this money suit judgment debtor property attached ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് വേണം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ജഡ്ജ്മെൻറ്റ് ഡെറ്ററുടെ അറസ്റ്റ് ആൻഡ് ഡിറ്റൻഷൻ വഴി വേണം ഈ ഡിഗ്രി എക്സിക്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യാനെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അത് ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കുക എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അവിടെയുള്ള കോടതിയിലാണ്. സോ ഇൻ സച്ച് കേസ് ദ ഡിഗ്രി ഹോൾഡർ ക്യാൻ അപ്ലൈ ടു ദി കോർട്ട്, മുനിസിപ്പൽ കോർട്ട് എറണാകുളം, to get the decree transferred to the Municipal Court Kottayam. Secondly, the second instance is the judgment debtor is not having any property within the jurisdiction of the court which passed the decree, which I have told you. Thirdly, if the decree contains a direction, for the sale or delivery of a property, for the sale or delivery of an immovable property which is situated outside the local limits of the jurisdiction of the court. As I have told you, if the decree is with regard to a property situated outside the jurisdiction of the Municipal Court Ernakulam, if the property on the immovable property with regard to which a delivery has been ordered is situated in Kottayam, in such case, the Municipal Court Ernakulam will have to transfer the decree for execution to the Municipal Court Kottayam. And lastly, if the court which passed the decree considers that it would be necessary for any other reason to get the decree transferred to another court, in such case also the decree can be transferred, and that reason should be specifically stated in the order transferring the decree. Then an issue arises as to whether it's for the decree holder to decide, whether his decree is to be transferred or not, whether the decree holder is having any vested right, or whether it's the discretion of the court to get the decree transferred. That question was addressed by the Supreme Court in Mahadev Prasad versus Ram Lochan. Mahadev Prasad versus Ram Lochan, AIR 1981 Supreme Court 416. AIR 1981 Supreme Court 416. In this case, the Supreme Court held that the decree holder is not having any vested right. The decree holder is not having any vested right or a substantive right to have the decree transferred, and his right is limited only to filing of a application to get the decree transferred. So apart from his right to file an application to get the decree transferred, he is not having any vested right or a substantive right. Then another issue may arise. The judgment debtor is having property at various places, and by the sale of a property at one place alone could not satisfy the decree debt. Whether the decree holder can simultaneously file execution petitions at more than one court or at more than one place. ഒരു 10 കോടി രൂപ ഡിഗ്രി ഡെറ്റ് ഉണ്ട്. the decree has been passed by a court at Ernakulam. Whether the decree holder, and he is having property at Kottayam, Pathanamthitta, and Thrissur, and proceeding upon a property in one place will not satisfy the decree debtors. So whether the decree holder can simultaneously proceed against these properties by filing execution petitions at courts at say Kottayam, Pathanamthitta and Thrissur. That issue was addressed by the Supreme Court in Premlata versus Lakshman Prasad. Premlata versus Lakshman Prasad. AIR 1970 Supreme Court 1525. AIR 1970 Supreme Court 1525. In this case, the Supreme Court held that a decree holder may execute a decree against the property of judgment debtor at more than one place simultaneously. He can proceed. An affirmative answer has been given. The decree holder can proceed. However, such power or allowing a decree holder to proceed at more than one place simultaneously, that power can be exercised only sparingly in exceptional cases, and that too after giving notice to the judgment. ഇപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ ഫയൽ ചെയ്യുന്നതിൽ കുഴപ്പമില്ല, അത്യാവശ്യമായ കേസുകളിൽ അത് ചെയ്യുകയും ചെയ്യാം. പക്ഷേ അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് മുൻപ് എ നോട്ടീസ് ഷുഡ് ബി ഗിവൺ ടു ദി ജഡ്ജ്മെൻറ്റ് ഡെറ്റർ. Now we will come to the procedure in execution. How should the execution proceedings be done? We have seen a suit is instituted by the presentation of a plaint. Then how does an execution petition be, how will the execution proceedings begin in a case? An execution petition is to be filed, and that execution petition will have to be filed along with a certified copy of the decree. So while filing an execution petition, a certified copy of the decree is also to be filed along with the execution petition. And if the decree is to be transferred to another court, then the court which passed the decree, at first the person will have to file an application before the court which passed the decree to get the decree transferred, as I have told you. And after that, the court to which such an application is filed, or the court of first instance, will have to send to the court to which the decree is to be transferred a copy of the decree. The court which passed the decree will send a copy of the decree to the court to which the decree is to be transferred. Then the court which passed the decree will have also to send a certificate regarding the non-satisfaction or a part satisfaction of the execution of the decree. So the court will have to send a certificate with regard to how far the decree has been satisfied. If it has not been satisfied, the court will issue a certificate saying that the decree remains unsatisfied. But if it is satisfied in part, a certificate to the extent to which the decree has been satisfied will also have to be sent to the court to which the decree has to be transferred. And if any order has been passed by the court which passed the decree for the execution of the decree, then a certificate regarding the orders made also shall be sent to the court which passed the decree. The court to which the decree is to be transferred. So in case of transfer, when it is sent from the court of the first instance to the court to which it is to be transferred, the receiving court shall take it upon the files, without any further proof regarding uh, further proof regarding its maintainability. And the court will be having the same powers as that of the court which passed the decree. So once a decree, a copy of the decree and the certificates, as I have told you, is sent to the court to which the decree is to be transferred, that court which to which it is sent, it shall that court shall receive it, it shall take it into the file without any further proof regarding the decree. And thereafter the court to which the decree has been sent will be having the same powers as that of the court which passed the decree with regard to execution of the suit. And if a decree has been transferred to a district court, the district court, it's either the district court itself or a court subordinate to that district court can entertain the execution application. And once the decree has been transferred to another court, the court which originally passed the decree will cease to have jurisdiction. It will become it will be having further it will be having no any right with regard to the execution of the decree. And after the decree has been transferred to the court, the new court, the decree holder will have to make an application before the court to which the decree has been transferred. Execution application will have to be filed before the court to which the decree has been transferred. And as I have told you, the transferring court will be having all the powers of the court which passed the decree with regard to the execution. Now we will see what are the powers of an executing court. What all powers are there for an the court which executes the decree? Firstly, the court which executes the decree must be having the territorial jurisdiction to execute the decree with regard to the property situated. So, only the court under whose jurisdiction the property is situated will be having the power to execute the decree. Secondly, the execution court cannot go behind the decree. The execution court cannot go behind the decree, and the execution court will not be having the power to verify or modify the decree, the terms of the decree. And the execution court cannot also question the correctness of a judgment also. It cannot question the correctness of a judgment also. So even if the court which passed the decree itself is sitting in execution, the status of the court changes from that of the trial court to that of an execution court. Once the status has changed from that of the trial court to an execution court, the execution court does not have any power to vary the terms of the decree. ഇപ്പോൾ എറണാകുളം മുനിസിപ്പൽ കോടതി പാസ്സാക്കിയ ഒരു ഡിഗ്രിയാണ്, എറണാകുളം മുനിസിപ്പൽ കോടതി തന്നെയാണ് ആ ഡിഗ്രി എക്സിക്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നത് എങ്കിൽ പോലും ആ കോടതിക്ക് എക്സിക്യൂഷനിലിരിക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് ആ ഡിഗ്രിയിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും പോരായ്മയുണ്ട് എന്നൊക്കെ തോന്നിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അത് തിരുത്താൻ സാധിക്കില്ല. ആ ഡിഗ്രി ശരിയല്ല, ജഡ്ജ്മെൻറ്റ് ശരിയല്ല എന്ന് തോന്നിയാൽ പോലും the court cannot interfere with the decree which has already been passed. So execution court cannot go behind the decree. However, if there is an inherent lack of jurisdiction, at the time of execution, the execution court finds that the court which passed the decree or the court of the first instance did not have the jurisdiction to pass the decree. Either it may be because of the reasons which we have already discussed, or maybe because of the law of limitation or etc. That lack of jurisdiction is crucial, because if a court has passed a decree, as we have discussed earlier, if a court has passed a decree without having jurisdiction, that decree will be null and void. And so itself, that aspect can be looked into by the court which executes the decree. And if the court finds that the court of first instance which passed the decree did not have the jurisdiction, the presumption is that there is no such decree and the court could not execute the decree. And this inherent lack of jurisdiction, that must appear on the face of the record itself. The inherent lack of jurisdiction, I have told that if the decree has been passed without jurisdiction, it's a null and void. And that lack of jurisdiction should be visible. It should appear on the face of the record also. Then if the terms of the decree are vague, അവിടെ എന്തെങ്കിലുമൊക്കെ ഒരു കൃത്യതയില്ലാത്ത ഒരു ഡിഗ്രി ആണെങ്കിലോ, or if it is ambiguous, the executing court can construe the decree. The executing court can interpret the decree having regard to the judgment and also the pleadings which were raised by the parties in the suit. സംശയങ്ങൾ തോന്നിയാൽ അത് ജഡ്ജ്മെൻറ്റും കേസിലെ പ്ലെയിൻറ്റും റിട്ടൺ സ്റ്റേറ്റ്മെൻറ്റും ഒക്കെ വിലയിരുത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് അതെന്തായിരിക്കും ആ ഡിഗ്രിയിൽ ഉദ്ദേശിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത് എന്ന് അത് എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ കോർട്ടിന് വിലയിരുത്താം. And the execution court can also go into the executability of the decree, whether the decree is executable. That aspect can be looked into by the executing court. And the court can also consider whether the decree has ceased to be executable according to the term of the decree, according to the terms of the decree. So these are the powers and the duties of the executing court. So the executing court cannot go behind the decree. That's the most important thing which will have to be kept in mind. തെറ്റാണ് എന്ന് തോന്നിയാൽ പോലും എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ കോടതിക്ക് ആ ഡിഗ്രിയിൽ നിന്ന് പുറകിലേക്ക് പോകാൻ പറ്റില്ല. The execution court will presume that the decree is a valid decree unless the decree has been set aside by an appellate court. Now coming to application for execution. Who can apply? Who all can apply for execution of a decree? Undoubtedly, the decree holder can apply. The legal representatives of the decree holder can also apply in case the decree holder is no more. If the decree holder is deceased, his legal heirs can also make an application for execution of the decree. Or a representative of the decree holder, if an authorized representative by way of power of attorney holder, etc., he can also apply for execution of a decree. And any person claiming under the decree holder also can make an application for execution of the decree. If a decree has been transferred by the decree holder to some other person, decree മറ്റൊരാൾക്ക് ട്രാൻസ്ഫർ ചെയ്ത് കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട് എങ്കിൽ, a decree is a property which can be transferred. For example, ഞാൻ ഒരാളുടെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്ന് പൈസ കടം മേടിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. എനിക്ക് അനുകൂലമായി മറ്റൊരാൾക്കെതിരായി ഒരു ഡിഗ്രി എൻ്റെ കയ്യിലുണ്ട് ഫോർ ഇൻ എ സ്യൂട്ട് ഫോർ മണി. I can transfer this decree to my creditor and he can get the decree executed. Then any person, if a person is having a special interest in the subject matter, for example in a representative suit, any person who is having an interest in the matter of representative suit, he can also file an application for execution. Now against whom this application can be filed? Against whom this application can be filed? It can be filed undoubtedly against the judgment debtor. It can also be filed against the legal representatives of the judgment debtor. If the judgment debtor is no more, the application can be filed against the legal representatives of the judgment debtor. And when an application is filed against the legal representatives of the judgment debtor, such person will be liable only to the extent of the property which he has inherited from the judgment debtor. വിധി കടക്കാരൻ്റെ ജഡ്ജ്മെൻറ്റ് ഡെറ്ററിൻ്റെ അവകാശികൾക്കെതിരായാണ് കേസ് ഫയൽ ചെയ്യുന്നത് എങ്കിൽ എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ പെറ്റീഷൻ ഫയൽ ചെയ്യുന്നത് എങ്കിൽ ഇദ്ദേഹം ആ വിധി കടക്കാരിൽ നിന്നും എത്രത്തോളം കാര്യങ്ങൾ കൈപ്പറ്റിയിട്ടുണ്ടോ, പിന്തുടർച്ച വഴി കൈപ്പറ്റിയിട്ടുണ്ടോ, ആ ഒരു എക്സ്റ്റെൻറ്റിലേക്ക് മാത്രമേ he will be liable. And it can also be filed against a representative of the judgment debtor or a person claiming under the judgment debtor, and also against a surety of the judgment debtor. Now, before going to other particulars, I have omitted to tell you one thing. I have told you that the execution court cannot go behind the decree. Why is it so? Why is it so? If the execution court finds that the decree is against the law, or the decree is passed without considering certain material particulars, why can't the execution court refrain from executing the decree, or by making a declaration that the decree is not a valid decree? That is because if the execution court is allowed to alter or vary the decree, that would amount to the execution court to sit in appeal. അപ്പോൾ അപ്പീലിൽ മാത്രമാണ് വേരിയിങ്ങോ മറ്റു കാര്യങ്ങളോ ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കുകയുള്ളൂ. So if the execution court is allowed to vary the terms of the decree or anything like that, that would amount the execution court, which is of the same rank, to sit in appeal, and so that's the reason why that it has not been allowed, and it is stated that the execution court shall not go behind the decree. Then what all contents should be there in the application for execution? Execution application il endellam karyangal kaanichirikkanam. Firstly, it should contain the particulars with regard to the number of the original suit, the names of the parties, the date of the decree, and the particulars regarding the decree, the terms of the decree. And if an application is made for attachment along with the execution application, that should contain, if it is of a movable property, it should contain the necessary inventory with regard to such movable property. And the movable property ആണെങ്കിൽ അത് സംബന്ധിച്ച ഇൻവെൻറ്ററി വേണം. അത് അതിൻ്റെ പർട്ടിക്കുലേഴ്സ് എല്ലാം സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് ഓരോന്നിനും എത്ര വിലയുണ്ട് എന്നുള്ളതൊക്കെ that should be stated, and inventory should be made. And if an application is made for attachment of an immovable property, it should contain a schedule, as in the same manner we have seen the schedule with regard to attachment before judgment. If the application is for arrest and detention, if the decree holder wants to get his decree executed by way of arrest and detention of the judgment debtor, it should be accompanied with an affidavit stating that the judgment debtor is having the sufficient means to pay off the decree debt, but he is purposely evading the payment. Shall be accompanied by the affidavit stating the grounds on which the arrest is sought. It should clearly state that the judgment debtor is having sufficient means, but he is purposely evading the payment. Now the application has been filed. Then the first step with regard to that application is admission of the application. The execution court will ascertain whether the application complies with the requirements which are provided under the Code of Civil Procedure, under Rules 11 to 14. If it is complied with, then the application for execution will be admitted. And if a court finds that there are defects, time will be granted to cure the defect, and if it is not cured within the time provided, that application will be dismissed or rejected. The next stage is the hearing of the application. After admission, the next stage is hearing of the application. And the court, upon admission, the court will fix a day for the hearing of the application, and notice will be sent to the judgment debtor. And if the parties do not appear on the day of the hearing, the court can dismiss the execution application. In the absence of the decree holder, it can set aside, it can set the decree holder ex parte if the judgment debtor ex parte if the judgment debtor does not appear on the day fixed. And such order of dismissal or order setting the judgment debtor ex parte can be reversed by the court upon making an application under Rule 106 of the of Order 21 of the Code of Civil Procedure. And the time limit provided is 30 days. And remind you, as I have told you in the lecture on Limitation Act, being under Order 21, that period is not subject to Section 5 of the Limitation Act, and the delay cannot be condoned by the court. Order 21 Section 5 Limitation Act applicable അല്ല എന്ന് ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ തന്നെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട് നിങ്ങളോട്. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ളൊരു ഓർഡർ that will have to be filed within the period of 30 days. If it is not filed within the period of 30 days, the delay cannot be condoned. Then coming to notice of execution. Notice of execution. Order 21, Rule 22 provides with regard to show cause notice. A show cause notice. And a notice under Order 21, Rule 22 is mandatory. Order 21, Rule 22 is mandatory if the application for execution is filed after the expiry of 2 years from the date of the decree. ഡിഗ്രി പാസ്സാക്കി 2 വർഷത്തിന് ശേഷമാണ് എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ ആപ്ലിക്കേഷൻ ഫയൽ ചെയ്യുന്നത് എങ്കിൽ, ഓർ ഇഫ് ദ ആപ്ലിക്കേഷൻ ഈസ് മെയ്ഡ് ആഫ്റ്റർ 2 years ഓഫ് മേക്കിംഗ് ദ ലാസ്റ്റ് ഓർഡർ ഇൻ ദ പ്രീവിയസ് ആപ്ലിക്കേഷൻ. നേരത്തെ എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ്റെ കാര്യത്തിൽ ഒരു പ്രത്യേകത എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എത്ര തവണ വേണമെങ്കിലും വി ക്യാൻ ഫയൽ ആൻ ആപ്ലിക്കേഷൻ ഫോർ എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ വിത്തിൻ ദ പീരീഡ് ഓഫ് ലിമിറ്റേഷൻ. Even if an application is dismissed, the decree holder is having the right to file a fresh application for his remaining claim. So, if the application is filed either after 2 years from the date of passing of the decree, or if it is filed after 2 years from the date on which a last order has been passed in the previous application for execution, notice under Rule 22 is mandatory. Similarly, if the application is made against the legal representative of the judgment debtor മരിച്ചു ലീഗൽ റെപ്രസെൻറ്റേറ്റീവ്സിനെതിരായിട്ടാണ് ഈ ആപ്ലിക്കേഷൻ ഫയൽ ചെയ്യുന്നത് എങ്കിൽ, in such case also notice under Rule 22 is mandatory. If it is made against surety, then also notice under Rule 22 is mandatory. Rule 22 notice is mandatory again in case of a decree which has been passed by a court of reciprocating territory. So with regard to foreign judgment, we have seen it can be executed in India directly if the decree has been passed by a court within the reciprocating territory. In such case also, Rule 22 notice is mandatory. Then a notice can be issued under Rule 37. A notice under Rule 37 is to be issued if the execution of the decree is sought by way of arrest and detention of the judgment debtor. If the mode of execution of the decree is arrest and detention of the judgment debtor, Rule 37 notice will have to be issued. And as I have told you earlier, with regard to if the application is to execute the decree by way of arrest and detention of the judgment debtor, it should be accompanied by an affidavit also. Only after filing the affidavit, the court will order a Rule 37 notice. If notice are not given as provided, and if it is with regard to attachment of the property, Rule 66 notice is to be issued. If such notice has not been provided, that defect will go to the root of the proceedings, and will render the proceedings null and void. And with regard to Rule 22 notice, I have told you in certain cases where Rule 22 notice is mandatory. And in such cases, the court may dispense with Rule 22 notice. The execution court is having the power to dispense with Rule 22 notice as provided under Rule 22 Clause 2. Rule 22 Clause 2 empowers the court to dispense with the notice if the court feels that issuance of Rule 22 notice will cause unreasonable delay or it would defeat the interest of justice. And for the purpose, the reasons must be recorded in writing by the court. And now coming to the period of limitation for filing. Period of limitation for filing an execution petition is 3 years in case of mandatory injunction. If the decree is one for mandatory injunction, the period of limitation is 3 years. And in almost all other cases, the period of limitation is 12 years. And an application will have to be filed within that period. Otherwise, it will be hit by the law of limitation. And as I have told you, Section 5 will not help you to condone the delay because it is not applicable to proceedings under Order 21. Once if the application has been disposed of recording the satisfaction of the decree, then the doctrine of res judicata will apply. Otherwise, if it is dismissed, the doctrine of res judicata is not applicable. The party can file a fresh application also. Now coming to stay of execution. Whether the execution proceedings can be stayed. If so, by which court? Whether the execution court itself is having the power to stay the execution of execution proceedings. Yes, to a limited extent. To a limited extent as provided under Order 21, Rule 26. Order 21, Rule 26. On sufficient cause, the execution court can stay the operation of the decree. And stay can be granted only upon the judgment debtor furnishing sufficient security for fulfilling and or after fulfilling the conditions which are imposed by the execution court. And this stay which is being granted by the execution court, that is for the purpose of enabling the judgment debtor for making an application for stay either before the court which passed the decree or to the appellate court to get the execution stayed. അപ്പോൾ പരിമിതമായ കാലത്തേക്ക് മാത്രം സ്റ്റേ ചെയ്യാനുള്ള അധികാരം മാത്രമേ എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ കോടതിക്കുള്ളൂ. അതെപ്പോഴേ ചെയ്യാൻ സാധിക്കുക? എന്തിനു വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ്? ജഡ്ജ്മെൻറ്റ് ഡെറ്റർക്ക് ഒന്നുകിൽ ഡിഗ്രി പാസ്സാക്കിയ കോടതിയെയോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അപ്പീൽ കോടതിയെയോ സമീപിച്ച് ഈ ഡിഗ്രി സ്റ്റേ ചെയ്ത് കിട്ടുന്നത് വരേക്കുള്ള സമയത്തേക്ക് സ്റ്റേ ചെയ്യാനാണ് ഉള്ള അധികാരം മാത്രമാണ് എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ കോടതിക്കുള്ളത്. അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യുമ്പോഴും the court should ensure that the judgment debtor furnishes sufficient security and the conditions which are ordered by the court. Then section 29, Rule 29, Order 21, Rule 29 provides with stay of a pending suit. എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ്റെ പേര് പറഞ്ഞ് നിലനിൽക്കുന്ന ഒരു സൂട്ട് നിലനിൽക്കുന്ന ഒരു സൂട്ടിൻ്റെ പേരിൽ എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ നടപടികൾ സ്റ്റേ ചെയ്യുക. സ്റ്റേ ഓഫ് എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ പെൻഡിങ് എ സൂട്ട്. ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ, ദ ജഡ്ജ്മെൻറ്റ് ഡെറ്റർ ഹാസ് ഫയൽഡ് എ സൂട്ട് അഗെയിൻസ്റ്റ് ദ ഡിഗ്രി ഹോൾഡർ. ഇവിടുത്തെ ഡിഗ്രി ഹോൾഡർക്കെതിരെ ജഡ്ജ്മെൻറ്റ് ഡെറ്റർ ഒരു സൂട്ട് ഫയൽ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഐദർ ബിഫോർ ദ കോർട്ട് വിച്ച് എക്സിക്യൂട്ട്സ് ദ ഡിഗ്രി ഓർ in the court which actually passed the decree. In such case, the execution court can stay the execution of decree pending disposal of the earlier suit. This is with the object that in case a decree is passed in favor of the judgment debtor hearing, the adjustment with regard to the decree debts can be made. ഒരു കേസ് ഒരു കോടതിയിൽ ഒരു എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ കോടതിയിൽ ഒരു കേസ് പെൻഡിങ്ങിൽ നിൽക്കുമ്പോൾ ആ കേസിലെ വിധി കടക്കാരൻ ജഡ്ജ്മെൻറ്റ് ഡെറ്റർ വിധി ഉടമസ്ഥനെതിരെ ഡിക്രി ഹോൾഡർക്കെതിരെ ഒരു കേസ് നൽകിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. എവിടെ? ഐദർ ബിഫോർ ദി കോർട്ട് ഓഫ് ദി ഫസ്റ്റ് ഇൻസ്റ്റൻസ് ഓർ ബിഫോർ ദി കോർട്ട് വിച്ച് എക്സിക്യൂട്ട്സ് ദ ഡിക്രി. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള സാഹചര്യത്തിൽ എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ കോടതിക്ക് ആ കേസ് വിധി വരുന്നത് വരെ എക്സിക്യൂഷൻ പ്രൊസീഡിങ്സ് സ്റ്റേ ചെയ്യുന്നതിനുള്ള അധികാരം Order 21, Rule 29 provides. And the purpose is that in case a decree has been passed in favor of the judgment debtor hearing, the debts can be adjusted. And the judgment debtor will not be put to unnecessary harassment. So, these are the preliminary. These are only preliminary with regard to execution of suits. We will move on to the modes of execution of decree in the next lecture. Thank you.